This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
G7 leaders agreed on Sunday to raise their contributions to meet an overdue spending pledge of $100 billion a year by rich countries to help poorer countries cut carbon emissions and cope with global warming. But only two nations offered firm promises of more cash. Alongside plans billed as helping speed infrastructure funding in developing countries and a shift to renewable and sustainable technology, the world's 7 largest advanced economies again pledged to meet the climate finance target. But climate groups said the promise made in the summit's final communiqué lacked detail and the developed nations should be more ambitious in their financial commitments.
Oil prices rose on Monday, hitting their highest levels in more than 2 years, supported by economic recovery and the prospect of fuel demand growth as vaccination campaigns in developed countries accelerate. Brent was up 59 cents, or 0.8%, at $73.28 a barrel by 13:23 GMT, its highest since May 2019. U.S. West Texas Intermediate gained 63 cents, or 0.9%, to $71.54 a barrel, its highest since October 2018. The two leading crude markers are trading at almost 2.5-year highs amid a potent bullish cocktail of demand optimism and OPEC Plus supply cuts, said Stephen Brennick of oil broker PVM.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
6 top Western energy firms are vying to partner in the vast expansion of Qatar's liquefied natural gas output, industry sources said, helping the Gulf state cement its position as the leading LNG producer while several large projects around the world recently stalled. ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, TotalEnergies and ConocoPhillips, which are part of Qatar's existing LNG production, were joined by new entrants Chevron and Italy's Eni in submitting bids on May 24 for the expansion project, industry sources told Reuters. The bids show energy giants continue to have appetite for investing in competitive oil and gas projects despite growing government, investor and activist pressure on the sector to tackle greenhouse gas emissions.
Hedge funds boosted their position in petroleum last week to pre-pandemic levels, encouraged by signs of a rapidly recovering global economy and continued output restraint among U.S. shale producers. Money managers purchased the equivalent of 52 million barrels in the 6 most important petroleum futures and options contracts in the week to June 8, exchange and regulatory data shows. The net position climbed to 919 million barrels, the highest since January 2020 before the pandemic took hold. Prior to that, it was the highest since the peak reached in October 2018 before the trade war between the United States and China intensified. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. South Africa has signed a plan that aims to revive the local steel industry and boost output, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition said on Sunday. The master plan for the steel and metal fabrication sector, an initiative by regulators, industry and labor, was signed on Friday and outlines steps to re-energize the sector and expand production, the ministry said. South Africa is one of the largest steel producers on the African continent, with steel-consuming industries contributing R600 billion, $44 billion, to the country's GDP.
Gold prices slipped as much as 1.7% on Monday, weighed down by fears that the U.S. Federal Reserve may provide a path for tapering its expansive monetary policy at its 2-day meeting this week. Spot gold fell 0.7% to $1,864.36 per ounce by 10:18 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 14:18 GMT, after hitting its lowest since May 17 at $1,848.49. U.S. gold futures dropped 0.6% to $1,868. Philip Stribel, chief market strategist at Blue Line Futures in Chicago, said there could have been some liquidation in gold ahead of the Fed's policy meeting, which begins on Tuesday.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India's annual monsoon rains have covered 2/3 of the country, nearly a fortnight ahead of the normal schedule, a weather department official said on Monday, adding that conditions are favorable for further advancement into the northwestern parts this week. The early arrival of monsoon rains in central and northern India will help farmers accelerate sowing of summer-sown crops such as paddy rice, cotton, soybean and pulses, and may boost crop yields too. Monsoon has already covered some parts of Punjab. Usually, it enters Punjab in the last week of June, said an official at the India Meteorological Department, IMD, who declined to be named.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.